my friend just left, and we stayed up again really late last night talking. It was really fun. I didn't get as much sleep as I normally do, but that's alright. It's all good. I mean, what's the point in like balance if you can't also be relaxed when you disrupt it? I want to mention something that I think is really interesting. So on Monday, I guess, I was so like, I need to make all these videos and edit all of them so I can relax afterwards. And it was this like constant tension of like just trying to cram things out and not even being able to think clearly because I'm just like, I just need to get it done. I just need to get it done and I make progress and get them all the videos out. I only edited and published 4 videos that day. And that's a lot for me. That is a lot, but I also did a lot of editing on them. But yesterday, I published 2 videos. And you know how little time I spent thinking about them or obsessing on them? And then you know how full yesterday was? Like, socially, emotionally, so many things that were so filling and important. And I'm so glad that I had all that time with my friend. Like, literally, we hung out from 10:30 in the morning or something, like 10 o'clock in the morning, up till like 2 a.m. last night. So it was like a full, and we had a little like break because she went to like small group and stuff. But that was like such a blessing, and especially since I'm here by myself right now, it was just this huge, like honestly, it's kind of cheesy to say it, but like an answer to prayer, you know. In like more than one way. So I also mentioned last night, I think maybe, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I keep getting on dating apps. I have this weird pattern, and I did want to talk about this. I have this weird pattern of like wanting to, I think it's just a control thing, and wanting to like have it in the back of the corner as an option, holding on to that like, oh, I have choices. I'm choosing to be single right now, which is a point I'm making. Like, I'm choosing to be single just because I don't have men literally running up to my door and like knocking on it, being like, hey, do you want to go on a date? Like, that doesn't make it less my choice that I'm being single right now. I'm still going to keep choosing that for the time being, unless something really obvious clicks, and even then I'm going to be a little bit more wise and discerning and distant, like, I don't know how I think about that. Give me a second to think about it. I'm not just saying this because you're asking me, you know? But anyway, so I have this weird pattern of like, after a few months or weeks, if I'm like getting too foggy or something, like I re-download a dating app and just get on there, and I'm like just existing on there, not even really talking to anyone, not even really seeking anyone out. And eventually I always end up talking to one person, or one person starts talking to me, and it's never multiple, it's never like 3 or 4, it's always just one. Like, one person's like, hey, you're cool, let's go on a date. And I'm always like, or they keep asking me for coffee dates. And so, further context, about a year or some ago, year and 6 months at this point, we'll say, a year and 6 months, I started dating the first time. Dated a guy, and, you know, we dated for like a year and 3 months. So it's my first ever relationship. I'm 22 now. I was, you know, still pretty like ignorant about things back then, and very, actually, there was so little I knew about dating. I'm really thankful that the guy I dated was the first guy I dated. I'm also really thankful that he wasn't the last guy I dated. So, you know, like there's a lot of gratitude on both fronts there. But yeah, so last year I got on a dating app for the first time ever, and it was like, I think it was Hinge, and he was the first person to talk to me, and I only had that app for a very short amount of time, and it was not even 12 hours, and someone reached out, and that was my ex. And so the first few interactions were really like friendly and all that stuff, and we talked a lot. For me, like, it was a decent amount. And then he asked me for coffee like that same day, so it was a very like quicker progression of things. Then so I responded, you know, like, of course, yes, phenomenal. And we video chatted the next day, and then we met up in person the third day. So we started talking on Sunday, and we went on our first date on Tuesday. This isn't really the most important part, but like, he really was the first person to show me any kind of attention. And so I think that is something that I'm kind of working through now, to say, okay, let's learn how to say no. And I'm not saying that I regret saying yes and that, and I think it was the right choice at the time. Like, I'm so thankful that I got to meet him and talk to him and date him and get to know him and see, what a relationship was like. So it was a great experience overall, but it's just been something to work through for myself. Like, I need to know that I'm not just jumping on the first person to show me attention. So anyway, all that to say, the last time that I started talking to someone on a dating app, I really almost went because I was so excited to like meet someone, finally start talking to someone that has similar interests, and it was like honestly a really nice conversation. We had like good chemistry, that kind of stuff over text at least, so you can't really say that. It was just texting, but we almost went on a date. So this is the second guy, and this was like a month ago probably. So like it had been a little bit since me and my ex broke up, and I was just like, all right, like let's try and keep this door open. Let's try and keep ourselves available. And honestly, it was dumb. Like, I wasn't really ready. I really wasn't ready. So one of my friends sat me down. Mahiro, you're the bomb. Sat me down and was like, yo, this is not it. Like, we were having coffee anyway, me and my friend, and I was just like, yeah, you're right. This really is not it. So rejected him. Interestingly enough, actually went on like a me date the same day we were supposed to meet up. I went to like a new sandwich shop that was opening, and then I went to like an art museum and all this fun stuff. I didn't really vlog that, but I do have a video of myself talking about it when I got home. So that's like a really like cool that God was able to use my friend to be like, yo, this is not a good time for you and you're not ready for it. And then this time was different a little bit because I'm much more like, it's just I'm completely content on my own. Like, I have so many things going on in my life, and I'm so excited about all of them, but that takes away from my time to be attentive to all these other things. And unfortunately, I haven't been as on top of, like, talking to my siblings or talking to other people, and I don't really have time for... I'm not saying that, like, I don't have time for it. I'm not prioritizing a relationship right now, so it's not something that I want to invite in at the moment. But... So I still had that dating app. I still had it. Another one is like Coffee Meets Bagel. I'm only really on that one. I only got on that one because there's no one on it. Like, really, there's not very many people that actually use it. So, at least not people like my age. So, like, nobody on there is that interesting to me. And then one guy that started talking to me, he was pretty cool. He was fine. The chemistry just wasn't there. There's just, like, nothing. It was just, like, nah. So I respect him for reaching out. I really appreciate the interest, but I had to reject him this morning. So it was like, all right, let's pay attention to the cycle that's happening. All right, this is your third time now getting on a dating app, talking to one person, getting invited to coffee. First time you went, and it was great. Second time you almost went, and that was a good decision not to go. Would have been questionable. And then this time you rejected him easily. So I can see the progression of growth there between like not even thinking I could say no the first time to having a harder time saying no because I still felt like once I'd started making that commitment, it was too late to back out. And then this third time, feeling like, I have the ability to say no and it is his responsibility to respond. And I'm feeling that like, wow, I feel so empowered and I'm growing so much. I will say it was great to have my friend here to help me write that rejection letter. Not even letter, just note. And work through some of those other confusing emotional explosions that have been happening internally. This is part of just being like a single woman in your 20s and not knowing like what's going on in your life. Like, there's so many things happening and there's so much that I'm processing for the first time, and so everything feels not overwhelming but different and new because I wasn't prepared for this level of like, oh, we're gonna open all these doors. Because we also talked through yesterday with my friend, we talked through so many things that like, she was like, why do you think that? Like, why do you believe that about yourself? Like, me saying like, oh yeah, like I'm so over dramatic, I'm always writing in my journals, I'm just like so over the top, exaggerating. She's like, why do you think that? Like, who told you that? And I'm like, I don't know, actually. Maybe me. I think I might have told myself that. And then she's like, don't make yourself digestible. And I'm like, yeah, but also this is way easier said than done. Like, even recording this, I'm like, wow, like, I am so much right now. Like, I am sharing way too much with the internet. But it's like, I'm not, there's nothing out there that's not, like, if you met me in person, I'd say this to you too. Like, it's fun to be on dating apps. It opens doors and you're just like, oh, like there's lots of possibilities out there. And for me, it has in some ways helped me to stay content with being where I am and knowing that, okay, there's more men that exist than those that are in my immediate circle, than those that are in my, acquaintances and all that. But I really do appreciate when I went down to like Chick-fil-A, people that have like similar interests to me, and it just reminds me, oh yeah, like interesting people are out there. Like I don't have to, I'm not saying settle, but like I don't have to have this like scarcity mindset of I will just be with the people that I'm around. But there are so many people that like are so much more like you and so much more like attuned to the things that you actually need in a relationship than the people that might be in your immediate circle. So I'm saying that to myself. Like half the stuff is just like, hey, you need to remember this, Susanna. Like, hey, I care about you and I'm gonna say it. But yeah, it was really such a huge blessing to be with my friend, and she literally is like such a huge, like, I already told her this, but she's such a culture creator, and like she's one of those people that won't just take a surface answer. And I really do appreciate that. Like, she will ask you why you're thinking what you're thinking and push things just one step further, which just is such a huge gift, honestly. Like, I don't know. I can tend to think I'm overthinking or assume that I'm the problem 95% of these times. But when it comes to bigger issues and things that have happened in my past, like traumas and other things that, just I tend to disqualify myself or make it my fault, where the reality is the world is full of brokenness and death is something that just happens. It wasn't, one person's fault that those things that were inevitable happened. But yeah, just a really like healing time, and a really huge gift, honestly, helping me prepare for being home in a week. I love the crap out of my family, but sometimes you forget who you are when you're around people who bring you back to who you used to be. And that is inevitable. If I was hanging out with old friends, it would be just as much a struggle. And it's hard to, when you're a kid, you don't really have a whole lot of free will of like, hey, here's what I'm doing, like regardless of what you say, because you have to respect your parents, you have to be honoring to them, and I'm still trying to do that in a way, but I also know that I need to be in line with what I need to do and the person that I'm becoming, and I don't want to throw her out the window the minute I get home just because it's comfortable and that's what I'm used to doing. So this is a whole lot of rambling, but I am gonna get back to reading my newspaper, and I'll probably take a nap. I stayed up too late. It was fun, but I'm so tired. And it's break, so I can nap and not feel weird about it. So, not that you should. Naps are good. But yeah, that's how this morning's going. I hope you guys are having a good, what day is it? Wednesday, December of 2021. It is December 15th to be exact. So I'm leaving for home in a week, and I will catch you guys later. So I can't be the only one who does this, but like sometimes while I'm reading or while I'm doing things and I'm doing them, but like I should be doing them harder. Like I should be even more present or even more intense with it. And it's like, it's exhausting, Like I can't be the only one who's like, I just finished reading Art and Fear, right? Like during the flight down to Atlanta, and I still feel like I need to reread it again. And there's this one thing's been comforting with me for that. It's that I read it in my newspaper, I read it in a magazine, I think, and it was a guy talking about how everything he reads and everything he watches are silently becoming him. And a lot of times I feel like I have to be explicitly thinking about it for it to matter. But almost just like you don't have to be explicitly thinking about breathing for it to still be you breathing. I think in some ways when we consume media, when we watch things, when we read them, and they're things we want to change into ourselves, and we want to consume them enough that it changes us, it doesn't have to be this conscious effort all the time. It has to be, it's almost just like breathing. We're inhaling these things, we're exhaling them. It's natural for us to inhale them, but it's also natural for them to come out when we exhale. Because the same air you breathe in is the same air that comes out. So even if you're not consciously aware that you're breathing, I think you can still trust that you are. And that's something I'm trying to remember now, because I'm thinking about, I'm going to go to the library and pick up a couple of those books that I talked about, that I put on the list, and I'm going to try and read something today. And it's been a while since I just sat and read, and I'm going to try not to get too sidetracked with feeling guilty about the fact that I'm sitting and reading, and just try and be present, because this is my Christmas break. And I feel so freaking privileged to have a Christmas break where I'm not working all the time. But I want to invest in myself because of that. And I want to invest in stuff like this, these videos, and I might even be taking notes as I'm reading so that I can talk about them later in a future video. So I can think about these things in more of a processing method that I'm doing rather than a completion, award. Because I think that's really what the mindset is. It's like, oh, I've read that book. Check mark. It's all completely absorbed in my mind. It's like, no, you're going to read again what naturally sticks with you. Okay, here's the thing. So, what sticks with you is what sticks with you. And you don't need to worry about what didn't stick with you because it's not what you needed. You needed what stuck with you. And that's something that I have to, keep reminding myself of. So if anyone else is weird in that like me, just breathe. You're going to be okay. Everything you need to know, you have enough information to make the decisions in your life. You have enough data that you're working with to move forward. So I just want to encourage you and in myself that it's okay. You don't have to stress about that. So I just got off the phone with my sister. It is around 3 p.m. I'm probably going to go head over to the library soon. But I just wanted to say really fast that I had a temptation to edit these videos a lot. I had a temptation to try to make them really snappy, polished, clean, and digestible to anyone. Especially after watching my third and fourth vlogs, those get a little bit long, a little bit more substance, and they might not get very many views. None of my stuff is going to get that many views, let's be honest with ourselves, but if I can also admit to myself that people who want to stay will stay longer. People who need to hear this will listen to the whole thing. But if you don't need to hear it, you're not going to listen to the whole thing, and that is perfectly okay. That is totally good, and I'm happy for you. So there's this example that came to mind when I was thinking about this, and it's Charles and Ray Eames. They had a exhibition that they did. So they did a whole wall with the entire history of math on a wall. So they went all the way from the first ever realization of math to what currently exists in math. So it just was the craziest full huge wall of stuff, and people kept asking Charles and Ray Eames why they were putting in all of that information when people were only going to understand a tiny bit of it, especially the large amount of people that were coming in who don't have a ton of exposure to math. They're only going to remember a tiny bit, they're only going to understand a small amount. And he was like, people will understand as much as they can, and then they're going to walk away, and that's okay. It's okay for people not to understand you. You don't have to make people understand you. If they don't understand you, that's not your responsibility. It's not about you, it's about them and what is helpful for them. So that's what I'm thinking. But yeah, I'm not going to edit myself to be more digestible or more comfortable. If these things don't stick with you, then that's perfectly okay. But for the people that do need to stay, then I'm totally here to stay a lot longer, and I needed that person in the past. I needed to find YouTubers that were kind to me and were speaking truth, and I hope that if anybody who does need that can find these, then I'm more than happy to have ridiculously long videos and I'm not gonna silence myself to appeal to more. So that's it for now. I'm gonna go to the library and come back later. I think other people have talked about it in much more depth, but I think that everybody whose obsession with self-growth is from a place of self-hatred, you're never going to reach a point where you're happy with yourself. It's just never going to happen. So accept yourself the way you are now, because you're never going to be perfect. Love yourself the way you are now. Cherish yourself the way you are now. Treat yourself like you're someone who's valuable and worthy, because you are. And I struggle to see the benefit of looking down on past versions of yourself as well. Like, in the past, I've used that as like a motivator. Like, look at how far you come. You don't want to go back there. You don't want to be that person again. Well, the truth of the matter is, you'll never be them again. And that can be a mourning thing as well as a positive thing. If you're growing more and more into the person that you want to be, into somebody who's kind and loving and caring, then I think you can be proud of progress, but that doesn't have to come at the sacrifice of that past version of you. You can love both. You can have time for both. You can care for both. So I don't know. This is part of why I'm vlogging this, right? Like, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, like, let me wait to do anything, record anything, write anything, say anything until I'm someone who's valuable enough to have something to say. But that just invalidates the fact that I already am. Like, nobody's going to start acknowledging that until, like, you know, I acknowledge it myself. Like, hey, I'm actually pretty cool sometimes. Like, yeah, I can cringe at myself too, but, like, again, we only cringe at the parts of ourselves we have yet to resolve. So if I love all of myself, I'm more able to love other people well. And where's the benefit to me not liking her? You know, who's benefiting from me hating myself? And it's not me. It's definitely not me. It's you know, other social systems that have existed for way longer than I have. So I don't know. I think it's important to be patient with yourself and lovingly, gently push yourself to the person you want to be, because you know that you're able to do more than you're sometimes treating yourself like you can. But also know that there will never be a point where you're like, I'm good enough. I don't have to keep growing. That is the blessing of life, and it is also some of the downsides of knowing that there will never be a place where you feel confident enough to move forward. I'm speaking this especially because I think it's really, really tempting to get stuck in self-help stuff from a place of insufficiency rather than sufficiency. And it's the same concept of scarcity. It's like worth scarcity instead of time scarcity or money scarcity, like we've heard other people talk about. It's like we're scarce on our own unconditional love. We're scarce on that. And so we're looking for it from achievement. We're looking for it from perfect behavior, affirmations that we're good enough because of external circumstances and external progress. And I also, for me, like, there's a sense of anxiety too with getting better, because it's like, oh, I don't want to be back again because it was so hard before. And it feels harder now, but that's also because I'm actually doing the work. I'm really thankful for the progress that I'm making and the person I'm becoming, and I guess I'm thankful that I get to videotape it as I'm imperfect, as I'm going through the struggle, because there will never be a point where I'm not going through the struggle. So even people who are rich still have struggles. Sorry, you're never going to be... There is no idealized version of reality. If it is, it's heavily edited so that it appeals to only those parts of you that are beautiful and acceptable. And again, I'm not editing a lot of this stuff. I'm going to let it exist, and anybody who wants to watch it can watch it in full and take from it what you want. And I'll know that I'm going to, in the future, return to these videos to say, all right, what's actually true? Like, can I hear from myself what is true? And I'll be able to listen better. Because I know I would have used this stuff a long time ago when I needed someone to speak truth. So be the change for other people, but also be loving yourself into change and accept yourself where you are. So those are some of my thoughts right now, but I'm gonna go to the library actually. So let's go. It is so warm out. I didn't even have to bring a jacket. I'm just here like this, but we're going to the library, so let's go. My heart is just so warmed by a random stranger's kindness. Like, it was just so dumb. I was driving and I was turning left and there was tons of cars coming, And this one guy, like, flashed his lights and he was like, all right, you go, 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 go. And I was like, yay. So people's kindness really makes like a huge difference. And honestly, like, I was kind of struggling a little bit trying to work through some stuff, and it made it so much nicer. Like, it's great. I love that. Leaving now, I came to pick up 2 books that I ordered in advance and knew I would probably get more, but I ended up getting 9. So I want to say that part of my reasoning for getting all these books is that I kept being like, maybe I should not get these books, and then like talking myself out of it. But I really don't want to have a scarcity mindset about anything. Like, I don't want to have a scarcity mindset about the number of books that I can get out of the library, because guess what? I can drive back here and drop them off. And even if I can't, I'll figure something else out. So, like, I don't have to read them all just because I'm getting them all. I'm going to get them all and I'll read as much of it as I want. Just as I talked about, like, the math wall. I'll read as much as I want and I'll read what serves me. And if it's not serving me, I'm not going to force myself to read it. So, just trying to be more excited about everything, including these books. So last check for the night, it is around 10:45. I went over to my friend's house and talked to her for a bit, 2 of them for a bit, just got to laugh and goof off. But before that, I had quite a few phone calls today. So I talked to my sister earlier for an hour, and then I talked to my mom for an hour and a half, which was so much work. It was like a lot of heavy lifting on my part, completely new territory of humility for me and acceptance of where people are at, radical acceptance, right? And honesty too of how things are right now and how I'm feeling. And that kind of vulnerability has not been a thing I've been comfortable with for a very long time. And I'm still not. There's still a huge amount of trust that needs to be earned. But, I'm doing my part to put the work in and start to walk down that road. So I am going to go make myself a little frozen banana ice cream and eat that while watching something fun to kind of celebrate, like, hey, you did a really hard thing, and it's worth celebrating. So those small everyday decisions that I've been making up to this point, getting to spend the whole day with my friend, like, that's what's enabled me to make these decisions too. So I understand that there's a reason I haven't been able to do it until now, and that's also, maturity, but it's also so many circumstances that have been working in my favor, and so much confidence that's building slowly that's enabling me to ask harder questions and know that it's okay, that it doesn't have to be answered nicely, like having confrontational kind of questions. So that's where it's at right now. I am pooped though, like exhausted. My soul is tired. But keep editing away. I've just edited all the ones from this past weekend, so be excited for those. Those are fun. I'll probably upload some before the actual vlogs are done. In fact, you guys are seeing this, like, this is the weirdest thing. I'm feeling really super meta right now because I'm talking about these videos that I'm editing, but this episode that this is going to be in is going to be, like, in a few weeks. Like, it's not going to be right now, or at least it'll be, like, next week, It's not going to be immediate just yet. So it's just, like, really confusing to be like, oh yeah, I'm editing this video and I spent so much time and I can't wait for you guys to see it. And meanwhile, you guys have seen it like 3 days before or a week before. So anyway, I just think it's funny. But I am going to go. I am hungry. I did not have a whole lot for dinner. Something really quick, just like Brussels sprout and an egg. 2 eggs, I think. So I'm going to go eat the crap out of that banana ice cream and enjoy myself for a little bit. Probably, I think I'm going to read one of those books that I got today. So excited. Catch you guys later. Good night. Dude, it was so annoying.